Thank you for taking the time today to watch our tutorial on the use of the employment module and awards. If you're familiar with awards, working your way through the employment module should be pretty straightforward. The purpose of this tutorial is to demonstrate some elements of the employment module you may not have previously been aware of, and to elaborate on the way job categories should be defined, among other things. In order to track employment outcomes such as job placements, salaries, and job retention, the job placement section of the employment module must be updated whenever there is a change in job status for any program participant. Some examples of the changes that should be inputted include obtaining a job, volunteer position or internship, changes in the number of hours worked, pay rate changes, or the resignation, expiration, or termination of a job or internship. Ideally, changes in job status should be updated within 1 week of occurrence. Copies of any supporting documentation about the position should be collected and stored in an individual's chart whenever possible. The task we will be reviewing today is making a new job placement in the employment module. First, click on the Home key at the top of the screen if you are not already on that page, and from there click on Employment. Then select your program if it does not automatically populate and click on Jobs. Rather than immediately going into job placements, we need to first go to the Employers section of the module to verify whether or not the employer already exists, and if not, to make a new entry. To search for an employer, use the search bar on the right-hand side. If we search for an employer and do not find them, we will need to make a new entry. We do this by clicking the Add Employer key. On the following page, we enter the name of the company and any additional information we have. Make sure to answer the question about vendor status. If you do not know the answer, click No. Then, after the information is entered, click Save and scroll down to Contacts Information. Click Add Contact, entering the information you have, whether it's a first name, a full name, or a full name with contact information. If you do not know part of the name, enter Unknown. It is very important to designate the contact as a supervisor, as that will be the only way you will be able to attach the employer information to the job placement. Now that you've seen how to make a new employer entry, we'll show you how to edit information about an existing employer. If we search for community access, for example, we will see that CA has already been inputted multiple times as an employer. What is different about each of these entries are the supervisors you see listed under contacts. This is important because when making the new job placement, the way an employer is attached to the entry is by clicking on the supervisor's name. In this case, we will pretend that our new job entry will be with community access. We won't be able to locate the correct supervisor, and thus will need a new one. To add a new supervisor's name to an existing employer, click on the circle to the left of the employer's name and then click the Edit key, highlighted above in green. On the following screen, click on the Contacts Information tab and then click Add Contacts. Similar to the previous example, you will add the information you have available and make sure to designate the contact as supervisor. After you've saved your employer entry, Go back to the Jobs menu screen by clicking on Jobs at the top of the screen. Next, click on Job Placements. Select the participant on the next screen. Also check the date range. If the participant has had the job for more than 2 months, you need to change the date range to include the date they obtained employment. On the next screen, select Add New Job Placement and click Continue. Scroll through the list of employers until you find the one you're looking for. On the right side, you'll see different supervisor names in blue. You may see multiple supervisors for the same employer. Click on the supervisor that you just created, which will take you to the next screen, the Job Placement screen, with the employer information pre-populating. On this screen, add as much information as you can. Note that the required fields are hire date, hours per week, and pay rate, although it is best to enter all the information you can gather or that the participant is willing to share with you. Some of this you may be unclear about, but you can always come back to the entry to add or edit information later. First, we'll review the various categories for employment type. Competitive employment is work that pays at least minimum wage and is generally part of a mainstream company or agency. If an individual is self-employed, they should also be categorized under competitive employment. In this type of position, there are no vocational supports. Competitive employment with supports is work that pays at least minimum wage, generally in a mainstream company or agency, except in this case, the individual receives vocational supports such as job coaching or supported employment services. An internship is a temporary work assignment in a mainstream agency or company for learning purposes. An internship may include a stipend payment or it may be unpaid. A non-paid volunteer is an individual who engages in work-like activities in a mainstream agency or company but does not get paid. An example may be volunteering through the public library system or an assignment through New York Cares. Transitional employment, TE, is a temporary work assignment usually acquired as part of a clubhouse participation. The Work Experience Program, or WEP, is run by HRA, where work assignments are a requirement for persons to receive their monthly cash or public assistance. The next section is status, which refers to the expected longevity of a job. Permanent work is work that is intended to continue on an ongoing basis for at least 1 year or more. Temporary work is generally an internship or contract work that is intended to last for a short period of time, generally from 1 week to 1 year. Casual work is work that is sporadic and occasional, such as babysitting, day labor, or working at the polls on election day. Next is the occupational category section. Please do not leave this section blank as it defaults to architecture and engineering. This category is useful in learning what types of jobs our participants get. Please fill in the closest match to the person's job title. For example, a peer specialist position would be in the community and social services category. A maintenance or porter position would be in the building and grounds cleaning and maintenance category. Hours per week is a required field. If work schedule varies, as it does with per diem work, please use your best estimate based on the average number of hours a person typically works weekly. If it is easier to estimate monthly hours, take that number and divide it by 4. Pay rate is another required field. There are several designations to choose from, ranging from pay rate per hour to annual salary. Based on the type of work the individual does, please choose the appropriate designation. For example, if an individual is self-employed, it may be more appropriate to estimate their monthly or annual income as opposed to trying to figure out an hourly rate. Verbal reports can be accepted as verification of employment. As you might assume, an individual's employer should never be contacted without his or her written permission. Next, enter the date that the employment verification was received and select the appropriate drop-down to describe how the employment information was obtained. Written verification is optimal and should be maintained in a person's file, along with any additional details you were able to obtain. Although the job title is not a required field, this is an important field to complete for report purposes. If an individual does not know his or her official job title, use your judgment based on the type of position they describe. If a job ends, please document what happened to the best of your ability. If a person was terminated, this information can assist in supporting the person and working with them to develop skills that will help them obtain and maintain their next job. If a person quit the job, this may be a similar opportunity to explore why and what to prepare for in the future. In the notes section, please add any additional information regarding a person's job that is relevant and not captured elsewhere. Finally, the work schedule section is not required. However, completion of the work schedule can assist in working with somebody who may be challenged with time management issues or who you are having trouble finding times to connect with. After all information is entered to your liking, click on Continue. On the next page, you should see the new job placement listed. You can always edit or delete the listing in the future if need be. Thank you for taking the time to go through this training on entering job placement information into the employment module and awards. If you encounter any problems or issues with this in the future, please feel free to contact Career Development Services for assistance.